Hello and happy Lunar New Year and Year of the Dragon. I'm Overlord Bo. Thank you all for coming in today's video. Today's video is going to be about the new Tier 9 Premium Pan-Asian Cruiser, the Tianjin. Now, the Tianjin is going to be available for one out of the 54 random bundles for the Lunar New Year, or you can pay cash in the premium shop valued at 19,300 doubloons. My just basic opinion on this ship, if you like the Riga and you like being a sniper, this is going to be the ship for you. You do get a special spotter where you do get decreased dispersion by 10%. And it increased range by 10% as well with that spotter. Now this can be built into, it gets around, I think it lasts like 40 seconds. The cooldown goes to around 40 seconds as well. So you can use rapid fire this spotter plane, so you get 10% better dispersion pretty much all the time. Other than that, this is pretty much a Riga. So all the stats I'm going over is pretty much to be identical to pretty much a Riga, but let's just talk about it anyway. Pretty much with the Tianjin, you get a very well armored with the 40mm side and deck armor, but it does have a very high citadel, which makes her vulnerable to citadel hits. So make sure that you turn out a little bit early instead of late, because if a battleship or even a heavy cruiser you get your broadside, you're gonna get slapped or even death struck. So definitely be very careful of that. Now, good thing though is you do get the 40mm icebreaker bow armor, which protects against the bow citadels, which is very nice, very nice. Now for this particular ship, you do get powerful AP from the 9 220mm guns, which are the approved 50 through 65 pen angles. It has very similar penetration to the Alaska. If you're looking for kind of a gun feel, kind of feel for the penetration, it's very similar to the Alaska. But since this ship is pretty much a premium Riga, you do get the railgun shells of the Russians. So this thing goes pew. The guns go ridiculous. It goes ridiculously quick. Now, you do not get any torpedoes, so you definitely want to be careful when fighting at close range, because most of the time, if you're trying to be close range and they have torps, yeah, you're going to lose that engagement, so definitely be careful of that. Now, again, going back to those guns, since this is pretty much like a Riga and a Petro, I've been able to citadel even battleships with this thing, so definitely do not underestimate how powerful these guns are. They can be absolute monsters in the right hands. And that's why I call this thing the Chinese sniper cruiser, because it is a devastating sniper if in the right hands. Now this particular ship, I would definitely say, is more of a designed around long range combat. There isn't really any reason for you to get close except to maybe hit DDs, due to the fact that one, you don't have radar, and two, you just have hydro. So you don't really need to get super close range with this thing. Ideally, you want to stay past about 12 kilometers or so, making full use of your superior ballistics while minimizing your poor maneuverability, since this thing does maneuver like a brick with slow rudder shift and a large turning radius. It does have above average speed though, so you're able to throttle juke a lot, but due to that poor rudder shift, it's gonna be really hard for you to rudder juke people or try to just turn and be able to dodge shots. Now, with the blazing fast shells and improved dispersion, you will consistently land salvos on any enemy who dares show you broadside. This thing is meant to punish broadsides. You got a broadside cruiser, bam. You got a broadside battleship, bam. Broadside DD, bam. As long as you're accurate with your salvos, you are going to be slapping everything. Now, these shells don't do a lot of damage unless you do citadels, but it can really pack a punch if you get those citadel shots. It's really, but you do have to keep in mind though that for you to be able to penetrate BB belt armor, you normally have to be under 11 kilometers. Just as a side note, you have to be under 11 kilometers for you to normally be able to pen those BB belt armor. Now for cruisers, you can do it way further, but for BBs in particular, you have to be under 11 kilometers away from them. So definitely take that as a grain of salt when you're trying to aim for these battleship belts. Now, even though it does have a great AP, HE is also a great backup since you can target individual sections to light multiple fires if aimed correctly. That's the one thing about this thing being so accurate, is what makes it so great. You can aim at the bow to start a fire, at the midsection to start a fire, the rear section to start a fire. You can just start fires everywhere. It's fantastic. But the problem with this though, your HE DPM isn't that great. So only using HE for stubbornly angled targets where your AP isn't going to do fantastic. Most of the time you're using HE just to start those fires and switching back over to AP. Now, I was saying earlier, overall, I'd say the Tianjin definitely applies to the marksman type player. Like if you like sniping, if you're skilled at landing shots, Tianjin will be a very comfortable ship to play. Her AP can be wonky and inconsistent at times, but generally the RNG will be in her favor and you'll be able to just do great at getting in a kiting position or needing to push in if you need to. You know, you definitely want to make sure to spam that spotter plane so you get that 10% improved accuracy and the 10% range. Otherwise, she gets the same normal cruiser dispersion as other cruisers. So make sure you do use it. Make sure you use it. You get a lot of them. When you build into it, you get like 8 of them. No, you get like, no, some. You can do, it's about 7. Yeah, 7. It's 7. You get 7 of them or 8. I'll have to check whenever I showcase the build. I'll remember then. But you get 7 or 8 of these things, so you can just spam them all the time and just use them up. So make sure you use them, because if you don't, it's like, you're like, why even play this thing? Just play a Riga instead, right? Like, why? This thing is pretty much a premium Riga, except it doesn't have radar and it has the special spotter plane ability, which makes it where you have 10% better dispersion. So definitely make use of the ability, dang it. Make use of it. Again, you can get this ship outright for 19,300 doubloons, and it'll be coming out today, which should be the 7th, or on the 8th if you're in EU or Asia. It should be then, it should be. And again, this will be going for the Lunar New Year event, the Year of the Dragon. So happy New Year to you guys over there. Or you can gamba for it. It's as available as one of the 54 random bundles. So your chances are like, it's less than 2%, like 1.8 or something like that percent. So good luck on getting it out of that. So good luck to you. But overall, I'd say for this particular ship, I enjoyed playing it, but at the same time, it doesn't, like, if you're not getting citadels, it feels like it can take a while to get a lot of damage, depending upon how good you're hitting those AP shots. So for like a lower skill level player, it'd be a lot rougher for you to get those really good AP shots. But if you know where to aim consistently, you're gonna do a lot of damage. Also, if you're not getting really good RNG with your fires, like if you, let's say you have like a bow in battleship sitting at you, right? Or a bow in cruiser, and you having to use HE, right? If you do not get good HE fire chances, you're going to be suffering because the HE DPM isn't that high. That's like my only real concern. But this is like the same concern you would have when playing the Petro, right? The Petro or the Riga. The HE DPM isn't that great. You're more relying on the fire chance. And the AP is fantastic. It can pen pretty much anything. But the damage isn't super high unless you get pen damage and you get citadels. So that's the only caveat for this ship. Super accurate. Great guns, great pen, great armor. As long as you're angled or bow in, or you're angling away at the proper angle and you're not showing too much side. Other than that, though, I think this ship is pretty fun. If you enjoy the Riga, you'll definitely enjoy the Tianjin. 100%. 100%. You'll definitely enjoy the Tianjin. But if you don't like the Riga, you'll definitely not like this thing. And I know everyone has like a 50-50 opinion on the Riga itself. Me, on the other hand, I'm not the biggest fan of the Riga, but that's more of just me not enjoying it. I can still do 100Ks easy in the Riga itself, but I just don't enjoy playing it that much. It's not like a fun ship to me, you know what I mean? But anyway, with this gameplay out of the way, I'm gonna hop over and show you guys the build that I have and talk about a little bit why I picked the build that I did. And after that, we'll be pretty much done for the day. So let's hop on over and showcase the build real quick. And we're over to the build side. Before we talk about the build, I just want to talk about the fact that if you guys remember, World of Warships partnered with a few of us WoW CCs that do YouTube as well, where if you guys are tier 1 sub with the WoW's commander on any of ours YouTubes with the WoW's commander tier 1 sub, which is $9.99, if you have that, you're able to get a mission, I believe it's once a month, for a mission chain for a super container, which is super nice. So very kind of World of Warships to do that. So if you guys want to help support the channel and me doing content creation, you guys can do that if you like. But without further ado, let's move on to the build. So the Tianjin build is pretty similar to the Riga, except the fact that you are going to be building more into the high precision spotter, which is the unique spotter for the Tianjin itself. So pretty much in the first slot, you're going to be building into spotting aircraft modification, which makes it where the aircraft consumable is an extra 30%. When you do build into this, it does make it where the consumable action time is 39 seconds with a cooldown of 43.9 seconds. And you do get 8. I was correct. I said 7 or 8, and I was correct with the 8. So yay me. And of course, you want to do hydro. You don't want to do defensive AA. You want to do hydro. So when you do push in, and you have to, you can use the hydro to help spot the torpedoes. Now for slot 2, you can either go with hydro acoustic search for that extra consumable action time. But for me, I'd rather have the damage control system modification, because at tier 9 and 10, a lot of things are going to be shooting HE at you. So I definitely want to build in that. Now for the third slot, I go with aiming system modifications, which makes it where you have better accuracy. Then I go with the propulsion modification, which makes it you're about to have better propulsion. And then you have the concealment and the reload. For the build itself, I go with, first I'd be going with gun feeder. Then I would do the eye in the sky, which makes it where you get 2 extra spotting aircraft consumables and a 50% better cooldown for the aircraft spotting. After that, I would go with, personally, I would go with superintendent, so you get that extra heal. Normally, you always want to build in survivability first, so you would do superintendent. After that, I would then go into concealment. After that, you would go to, I don't know why I have this one. That's the wrong one. My bad. 1 second. I'm going to show you guys how I do it. You build into outnumbered, not top grade, because you normally don't want people in your concealment. You don't want them in there, so you would rather have outnumbered instead, which pretty much makes it where if you have an even number of allies and enemies, which includes you, you'll have 8% quicker speed, and your gun dispersion will be better by 10%. So it's a flat out buff to your gun dispersion and your ship speed, which makes you're able to get away quicker. Now with this one, the top grade gunner, it makes sure you have 8% main battery reload time if someone is within your concealment that's spotted. So normally you don't want people inside of your concealment for this particular ship unless you're just sitting bow in. So I definitely recommend taking outnumbered instead. For the next one, I would take personally Adrenaline Rush, so that when you're losing health, you're able to shoot quicker. Now, this is a personal preference on this one. You guys can decide yourself. If you want extra AP damage, you want extra damage, you can go for heavy AP shells, right? If you want that little extra damage, you can do that. But personally, I would rather go with a little bit more survivability. So I would take Survivability Expert myself, but you guys can build either heavy AP or Survivability Expert, depending upon if you're more, like, say you're better at surviving, right? You know how to survive longer, it'd be way longer distance. You don't need Survivability Expert. You could take AP, but if you plan on being a little bit closer, you can take Survivability Expert. But again, personal preference on which one you want to pick. I'm just here to be a guide in what you guys do. The last one, of course, will be the Consumable Specialist, which builds into the Spotter Plane in Hydro. Makes sure you get them 7.5% quicker. So it makes it where you're pretty much building into the spotter and your survivability with this particular build. Now, with that out of the way, let's just look at the armor real quick. As I was talking about earlier, you do get that 40mm deck I was talking about earlier. Very nice, with a 25mm top, bow, and aft. You do get the icebreaker in the front here, the 40mm, which helps protect you from getting citadeled. As you can see, the citadel is out of that water, but if you look at this right here, it's pretty much exactly where the citadel is. So if someone shoots right here, they're not going to be able, if you're sitting bow in like this pretty much protects you from getting citadeled. Very, very nice for them to add that little addition there. And it does the same thing for the rear right here. If you're like this, these little sections right here will protect you from getting citadeled. Now, if you're angled like this, they can pin in here. So definitely be careful where you're angling with this thing. Normally, you want to be a little bit like sharp enough angle where it auto ricochets on your side with this 140mm and 35mm side. So make sure you're angled enough to cause a ricochet and not where they can go in and pin and do a lot of damage. Now with this thing, you do get the 7-kilometer aerial ASW, thank God. You don't have to worry about that. And the anti-air is about average for the tier with 6-kilometer anti-air, which is nice, about average for the tier. But anyway, the ship does also have 12.1 kilometer concealment when you build into it. And with the survivability extra, you get 54,550 HP. And the range is 19.3 kilometers. And if you use the spotter, it goes up by 10%, which I think is plenty for tier 9. Or if you get into super tier, that should be fine as well. But anyway, that is going to be my video on the Tianjin. If you guys have any questions or concerns, definitely leave them down in the comment down below. But again, you can get this ship for 19,300 doubloons in the premium shop, or you can get it out of one of the 54 bundles for the Lunar New Year. But yep, hope you guys have yourself a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you all later.